Thank you so much to Card Market for sponsoring today's video.
Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. My name is Filipa and today I'm going to do a bit of a different video and I'm going to be reacting to the new bands in Standard. That's right, it's about them time. I wanted to react live here with you as soon as I saw that we have the announcement available. Now, for some context, we all know that Vivi Cauldron deck is on the block. I don't know if Vivi will get banned. I don't know if Cauldron will get banned, but what I think after casting the Spotlight Series Liverpool, that was a standard event with almost 600 players, eye level, 8 players qualified for the Pro Tour, $50,000 in prize pool, and from seeing the all weekend gameplay, obviously Izzet was a very good deck with a very good win rate, nothing new there. What did surprise me is that I think that not even banning Vivi or Cauldron at this point would be enough. I think Proft needs to go. Proft gets you so much value with fear of missing out, so that whole thing together, even if they ban Vivi and Cauldron, will still be a very good deck and very difficult to deal with. So I think Profs will get banned, Vivi, Cauldron, kill the whole combo, and then I don't know if anything else from another deck will get banned. Honestly, I think the other things are fine. I mean, Mono Red can still be powerful, but nothing crazy. The Sultai Reanimation deck is also really powerful, but you know, there's ways to exile the graveyard, so I don't think we'll see any ban there. So I'm really expecting the Izzet deck to get target. I wouldn't be surprised if some Mono Red maybe gets affected. I really don't think any other decks had like some insane win rate or like insane. So my predictions will be Proft's Epic Memory, I think. Vivi and Cauldron will be the band. So let's see if this is the truth. Okay, Standard. Vivi or Niter is banned. Vivi is banned. I mean, is anyone surprised? I'm not. I think you are not surprised either. It needed to go. Oh, okay, so there's a card from Mono Red. Screaming Nemesis is banned. Okay, all Mono White life game players, yeah, that one is for you. I mean, that card is really good, and yeah, I don't know. Do you guys think that was a good decision or no? I mean, Mono Red has been very powerful, and Screaming Nemesis is one of those cards that not allowing you to gain life, it's tough, right? And there it is, Proft's Epic Memory. This card is absolutely insane. I think this card needed to be banned. So there's no Cauldron banned, which honestly, I think I can live with that. You know, Cauldron is from Wilds of Eldraine, so eventually it will rotate out. And I think Vivi was definitely a bigger problem than Cauldron, maybe. And especially without the Profts, I think the Izzet deck will suffer quite a bit, and before Vivi, Cauldron decks were not really a problem, so yeah, I like that. And I'm not going to really react to these other ones because, you know, this channel is mainly standard content. Effective date is November 10th, 2025. Next announcement is February 9th. Let's see what they say. Howdy gamers, howdy! My name is Carmen. Okay, Carmen is really cool. I got to meet her in Magic Con, and she's a senior designer on Magic's play design team. Welcome to the final ban and restricted announcement for 2025. In our summer announcement this year, we saw a number of cards banned in Standard, but in the time since then, it has become clear that additional action would be necessary in a couple of formats. To that end, we've got a final different format seeing changes today, with notes from myself, Jadine, Eric, Gavin, and Daniel that speaks to changes in tabletop and digital formats. As a reminder from when we announced we would lightly adjusting the timing from this banning window, we plan to move towards a more frequent announcement, which I think I agree with that, to adjust formats as necessary. And there will be more details on that to come before end of the year. I feel like this is necessary. The regional championships, like, we could have had more people playing if these bans were made earlier, I think. Just because people knew that Vivi deck would get banned. In the meantime, I'm happy to hand the proverbial microphone over to Jadine to speak to changes in Standard. Okay, that's great, because I want to see standard changes. We're also announcing that the next ban and restriction update will be published February 9th, okay, and it will be on Weekly MTG and on Twitch. Okay, so standard, this is the part that we really care about, right? Written by Jadine Klomperens. So Vivi is banned, Screaming Nemesis is banned, and Proft is banned. Standard has been in poor shape for the past few months. The Izzet Cauldron deck has cemented itself as the strongest deck in the format and has had unacceptable I-win and play rates over a sustained duration. That's true. For the Liverpool Spotlight Series event on day 1, Izzet Cauldron had 60.8% win rate. That might not seem like much to some people, but in this kind of competitive scene with so many players playing the deck, it is a lot, right? This deck utilizes the Izzet Proft's Eideck Memory Core that we've previously seen power decks like Jeskai Oculus now taking to a new level with the inclusion of Vivi and Agatha Soul Cauldron. It has dominated the tournament scene since Standard rotated with the release of Edge of Eternities, placing 5 or more copies in the top 8 at all 3 of the Standard Magic Spotlight series that have occurred since then. So this is the one I was talking about. I was casting one of these events, so doing the coverage, commentating on the games, and in the event in Liverpool, 6 out of 8 decks in the top 8 were Izzet Cauldron. Two that were not were the Sultai Reanimator deck and Mono Red. I think that was it. So here we have some lists. So this is pretty standard list here. We can see the Magic Spotlight Spider-Man Alexei that won. I watched this match. It was really fun. It was a mirror match, but this deck is a very good deck. And by the way, maybe controversial opinion, but this was not one of the decks that I really hate being played so much, because it's a deck that does require skill. It's not like one of those decks that, you know, you don't need to have any skill. This deck, if you pilot really well, you can do very good with it. So the deck has a strong fair game, efficient interaction, and a combo ceiling that other decks in the format can't overtake. It is a strategy that has all bases covered and has no clear angle of counterplay. As a result, the metagame has been unable to adjust to the deck and likely won't be able to in the future. That is true. To open up the standard format for innovation and wider variety of decks, it's clearly that we need to disrupt the Vivi and Agatha Soul Cauldron combo. That interaction is too much stronger than the rest of the format. We are opting to ban Vivi as it's the card that most likely to create future balance problems if it's allowed to remain in the format. I can see that because we already had a lot of time with Cauldron in the format, and again, like with Walls of Eldraine eventually rotating, and just Final Fantasy staying for longer, we believe Standard will be more fun and diverse without Vivi in it. There are clearly parallels between Profts and Up the Beanstalk. That's true, which we banned in June's update. Both cards are one-card game plans that provide a lot of strength over the course of the game. In addition, they are both 2-mana enchantments that draw you a card when you play them. This makes both cards hard to profitably interact with, since both cards leave you up a full card following the exchange. This combination of qualities is a dangerous recipe for a card in the strongest deck in the format, as it greatly limits the number of decks that can combat strategy. That is true. Again, as I said, Profs was definitely one of the cards of the weekend, and even if Vivi and Cauldron would get banned, this would still be amazing because it just works so well with cards like Fear of Missing Out, Marauding Mako, Quantum Riddler, things that are going to start drawing you extra cards, and especially with Fear of Missing Out because you can get the counters, attack, untap it, get the counters again, attack, and this is very difficult to deal with. In terms of power level, Profts has proven itself strong standard engine. It broke onto the scene in a big way in the Jeskai Oculus deck at Pro Tour Either Drift with Proft's Eideck Memory deck lurking near to every standard metagame since. Prior incarnations of the deck have been healthy in additions to the metagame, but recent additions like Winter Night Stories, this was another one of those cards that works so well because you just get to put a bunch of counters on the creature, and then you can even use that big creature to pay the harmonized cost and just draw even more cards. and Quantum Riddler. So this is the card I was talking about. This card is really good. It works really well with Profts and just with the deck overall, as well as an increased level of optimization for the core shell. Leave us concerned that even without Vivi, the deck could continue to be one of the best decks in the format and potentially even the clear best deck. And this is the same discussion I had with the other casters during the event when we were commentating. And I was on coverage with amazing players. I mean, I was doing coverage with Simon Nielsen, and we both got to witness how strong this card is and how it can be a problem even if Vivi would get banned or Cauldron. To ensure that standard metagame has room for new decks and innovation in the future, this has been banned. Makes sense. I agree with this decision. We are also acting against the mono-red aggro deck today. That's where I was surprised. Mono-red has proven itself as the deck most able to tank with his own Cauldron. Also, Razor Keen is an amazing card against the Izzet Cauldron deck. We saw it all over the weekend. Every time an opponent draws a card, they lose 1 life, and with the Cauldron deck, you want to draw so many cards. Despite falling to meaningfully prove an obstacle to Izzet Cauldron dominance of the format, its play rate at competitive events and its win rate in our international data as is concerned, it may prove to be the clear front runner in standard in a post-Izzet Cauldron world. Okay, I like that they're considering like, okay, we will ban the Cauldron deck, the Izzet Cauldron deck, right? It will no longer be top tier deck. Maybe it will still be good. People will make some Izzet deck that will be decent. We saw after Corey Steel Cutter, this deck also emerged, but it will not be the same. And then they look and they think, okay, what are the other decks that were doing good? And Mono Red sticks out. Can Mono Red be too strong in a Izzetless world? And I think I like that they are thinking ahead, so that they don't have like this awkward situation where they ban the Izzet deck and suddenly we have the same problem with Mono Red deck and people are complaining again in a week and then they have to wait to ban, right? So I like this approach. Metagames where an aggressive deck is clearly the best deck are often painful for diversity because many slower decks can't compete. That's true. And to prevent this outcome, we are electing to ban Screaming Nemesis. I like this because this is the card that prevents your opponent to come back in a way. So like it prevents your opponent to gain life. So not only against life gain decks, but any decks, for example, that play, I'm even talking about Esper Origins that you surveil 2 gain 2 life. That 2 life sometimes is essential, but if they have a Nemesis that they already burst lightning and then deal the damage to your face, then you can no longer gain life the rest of the game. So even like these small points of life that you can come back throughout the game, you would not be able to get them playing against Screaming Nemesis. So I do like that. And we have the mono red aggro here from Liam Taylor Collins. This was the player that in the Magic Spotlight Spider-Man in Liverpool ended up in the top 8. Screaming Nemesis is among the strongest cards in the default mono red aggro deck and one of the most frustrating cards to play against. True, I agree with this. It slight-handedly removes most counterplay against mono red by giving the mono red deck a great game plan against 2 of Mono Red's natural predators. Life gain and large blockers, that is true. Screaming Nemesis out of the equation, we believe that it's far more likely that the metal game will be able to find an LT equilibrium with Mono Red as part of the landscape, not the deck to beat. I actually like this that they say, because it's true, like, right now we are not seeing like a very stonky deck see play, but after this ban we might see mono green big creatures, right? And Screaming Nemesis is so awkward because you really cannot attack, because if they block with the Screaming Nemesis, then what? You take 8 damage face if you're attacking with your 8/8 or whatever it is, right? So I like that decision. Learning and the future. A common element in all 3 of today's standard bans is an emphasis on counterplay. We want standard to be a format where decks are strategically distinct with a clear identity and the ability to do powerful things. Creating a healthy metagame in a world where decks have a clear and powerful game plans means that those strategies need to have strong counterplay available. It is failing of the format if there is a strong deck in the metagame that doesn't have a good counter strategy available. This philosophy underpins both choices today and our card designs in the future. Okay, so I like that they are considering this. I really like that. This philosophy of power decks with an appropriate counterplay means that we need to be careful with cards like Screaming Nemesis. I like this. So then they go on, they say missing the power level of a new card to some extent is inevitable. That's true, but there are ways we can improve our accuracy. So Vivi is an example of a card where the ramifications of an individual power mistake were amplified tremendously by the failure to find the interaction with Izzet Cauldron. So they are saying that they should have detected that during testing, but I mean, it's impossible to find something, everything during testing. And it's so good that the play team is taking accountability, because they are doing amazing things, and just like acknowledging faster, I think would be a great step to improve, because we are going to have mistakes like Vivi, and it will just happen. Vivi Cauldron, I mean, but it's good that they just are faster to take action. Increasingly, the standard metagame has been defined by a ceiling of strong multi-card synergies rather than the power level of an individual card, adjusting these to a design shift that is in progress, and we will have room to grow. Similarly, the Proft is an example of a strong engine card where the ever-increasing density of strong interactions available in the format got away from us. We design and test Proft's memory in Murders at Calov Manor standard, in a format where most of its powerful synergies didn't exist. Which is true, like, this card didn't shine until, I mean, it was already good in other decks, but now way more, right? It became a bigger problem. We noticed the lack of options and made Steam Core Scholar in the same set. Yeah, that's true. That's in the Murders of Calard Manor. To be a great card alongside Profts, because there weren't a lot of more synergies with Proft. So they just did that because at the time there were no synergies, the card needed some push, so they also made Steam Core Scholar. So they say then we felt comfortable printing it at a high individual rate. We thought the overall deck was a medium strength, but really fun. We particularly enjoyed that despite synergizing with the card draw, it asked players to tap out on their turn to get full value. Our prediction was that it might show up here and there, but that it was unlikely to be among the strongest decks in the metagame. Okay, I like that they're giving us more insight into like what is their thought process, right? Where they're making mistakes, how they're fixing it. I really like this line of communication instead of just being like, this is banned, this is banned, this is banned. They're actually walking us through from the process on when they make the card, why they make the card, why it was a mistake, what they're going to do differently. I really appreciate that. And this article is very well written. I'm the first one to criticize Wizards when they are doing things that are wrong. And obviously this format was not fun to play, but in my opinion, they did do a good job with this article. And we were right for that environment. It looks like 7 months until the release of Duskmourn, and fear of missing out for Proft's package to really center itself as a key player in Standard. As new cards were released and the overall package became stronger, the experience of playing against the deck became less fun. For example, the addition of fear of missing out gave it access to bursts of combo damage that the versions we test didn't have, which is it's the problem I was describing earlier. This addition of a combo finish made the deck stronger and more punishing to play against. Once we recognized that Profts had the capacity to be exceedingly powerful alongside creatures that draw cards and cheap spells that draw multiple cards, we should have considered how likely we were to make more of those cards in the future. In this case, the answer was extremely. In the future, this is a question we'll be asking before shipping similar engine cards at high rates. I love that. To close out this section on Standard, I like to acknowledge that this year's cadence for banned and restricted announcements has not been ideal, and competitive Standard suffered for it. I love that they're admitting that, because it's true. Like, they could have done things a bit more faster reaction, you know, because we knew this was going to be a problem for a while, and I feel like now they are reacting to it. But okay, better late than never, right? I appreciate that they are acknowledging this. Especially in the last 3 months, we still believe our underlying standard banned list update philosophy. We want 3 updates to be predictable, and we want standard format to feel stable. While our fundamental philosophy remains intact, we recognize that our execution this year caused pain in which we need to address. Taking accountability, this is how you do things. As mentioned in the beginning of this article, next year we'll be increasing the number of ban and restriction update windows. I think I like this. This allows us the flexibility to respond quickly if the metagames end up in a severely imbalanced state again. Our bar for action in Standard remains high, but we do intend to invert situations like these, where the format is clearly dominated by a single outlier deck with no clear angle of attack. As stated above, the next ban and restriction announcement will be on February 9th. We'll also be discussing this change in our ban and restriction update on Weekly MTG on November 11th, so tune in. Now, I love this. Just as a close-up, I think the bans were correct. Let's see if there's any deck now that stands out, if mono red will still be too strong. Although I think banning streaming Nemesis might have been a good idea for that. But I really like this article. I think they are taking accountability. I think we need to criticize things when they are not right. Standard for the past months has not been right, especially if you play best of 3. And if you're not just like a casual player or something. But I do enjoy that they addressed and they said that they will try to be a bit more fast handling things in the future. Let me know. This was just a big rant, but I decided to just give my thoughts, why not? And let me know in your comments. I tend to be a bit of a positive person. I know sometimes like that might come across like I don't care or something. I do care about Standard a lot. I also get very frustrated, and of course it hasn't been enjoyable to play Standard with so much VV, but I do appreciate that Wizards is addressing that. I think the rest of the article, it's about the other formats. I'm not going to go over that, but feel free to read the full article. I think I will link it in the description box. And that's it, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video. Shout out to Carmen, Jadine, Eric, Gavin, and Danielle for posting this update. I really like the Standard part of it. Cannot talk about the other one, but yeah, leave me your thoughts in the comment, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.